While new vaccination rates are falling dramatically in this country, less than half of which is fully inoculated, by the way, COVID cases are climbing. And that's thanks in large part to the more contagious and dangerous Delta variant.
For most people who get this Delta variant, it's going to be the most serious virus that they get in their lifetime in terms of the risk of putting them in the hospital.
Unsurprisingly, the vast majority of COVID hospitalizations and deaths are still among unvaccinated people, but those choosing not to get a shot are not just risking their own lives and health. Kids 12 and under still aren't eligible to get the vaccine. Likely won't be until this winter or later. That's why today the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended universal masking in schools for everyone over age 2, including vaccinated students and adults. We'll get into that much more in a few minutes. But first, to a more immediate situation here in Massachusetts, specifically Provincetown, which issued a new mask advisory today at an emergency meeting, urging everyone to wear masks indoors regardless of vaccination status. This, of course, is a response to a surge in infections after the July 4th weekend. More than 130 people have tested positive for COVID, some of whom were fully vaccinated. So now the town is ramping up testing and vaccines to try to get things under control, although when it comes to the shots, town manager Alex Morse has said 114% of eligible residents have been vaccinated. Not sure I understand the math, but I'm joined now by Alex Morse, who I'm sure you remember as the former mayor of Holyoke. Alex, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Jim.
The Department of Public Health declared the rise in cases a cluster. What does that mean in English, Alex?
So essentially, the first 2 weeks of July in Provincetown are among the busiest weeks we have in the summer. And so we have a population of around 3,000 people year round, but in peak season this summer, we have upwards of 60,000 people a day. So we have more people here in Provincetown today than we've had at any point since the beginning of this pandemic. And so since the 4th of July festivities and events and people that were here in town, we've seen an uptick in cases here. And as you mentioned, upwards of 132 cases, not just in Provincetown, but associated with events that have happened or cases that have been opened up here in town.
Now, on the good news front, the vaccination rate is high. I've read it a bunch of times. I assumed it was a typo, but apparently it's not. What does 114% vaccination mean?
So essentially, we have the census count of year-round residents. And what we also have now since the beginning of the pandemic is we've had hundreds of people now move here year-round that have reported Provincetown addresses since the beginning of the pandemic,
okay,
which is in fact higher than the actual census count. And so basically what that tells us is the vast majority, almost 100% of year-round residents are vaccinated, in addition to the 500 or so people that have made Provincetown their permanent home since then.
So what did the new public health advisory do today? I touched on one part, but there are others. Give us the full spread.
Well, we wanted to raise the public consciousness of behavior in town, and indoor masking is important, particularly in those places with poor ventilation and high density areas. Obviously, it was very busy here. We have a lot of venues that pack a lot of people into small areas in town. And we want to make sure to remind people that the virus is still very much with us. The overwhelming majority of these cases are among vaccinated individuals. Yeah. And so on one hand, the good news is that the vaccines are working among those that are vaccinated. They are presenting incredibly mild symptoms, not requiring hospitalizations. But I do think some people that are vaccinated, think they're invincible when in fact we're not. And so reminding people again, kids age 2 to 12, mandatory masks both inside and outside, requiring or advising people rather to wear masks inside. And we're also asking larger venues, performance venues in town, to require proof of vaccination before entry. And so this isn't a state of emergency. I'll remind folks, we know a lot more today than we did when this pandemic began. We are now living in a world with vaccines. We know a lot more about COVID, what it is and what it isn't. And so if we were to see a spike in hospitalizations and other data points, we could consider more restrictive guidance. But at this point, we are monitoring the data on a daily basis, and we're hoping that the numbers will continue or start to subside.
I hope I heard that last piece right, or the last piece of the prescriptions there. You said in crowded venues, and there are plenty of them in Provincetown, for those few who don't know, you'll be asked to present proof of vaccination. I hope the end of the sentence is, when you can't provide it, you don't get in?
That is the case. And there's already a couple of businesses that are doing that. The boat slip, for example, really took the lead. Anyone that wanted to go to their daily tea event had to provide
Great.
proof of vaccination along with their photo ID. And if you didn't come to town with it, then you're not getting in.
Are you finding some businesses unhappy with that requirement?
By and large, no. We have a very vaccinated population, and most of our visitors are very health conscious, and they want to get tested. They want to provide vaccine, and they like being in a venue knowing that everyone that they're spending time with or having fun with are also vaccinated. And so I think that's important. But at the end of the day, we've been able to show that even if you're vaccinated, you're at risk. Your symptoms may be mild, but you're still able to spread it to someone else. And so if you're not feeling well, stay home, get tested. We have a mobile testing van here, a mobile vaccination van. We're averaging about 275 people a day getting tested. And so that's been a really good help for us as well.
Okay, finally, for people headed to Provincetown in the near future, I'm one of them. It's not a stay away message. It's we've got it under control. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, we're entering a new normal and learning to live with the virus and manage it. And that's what we're doing here in Provincetown. And Provincetown is still a lively and fun place to spend time. The streets are still very busy. Next week is family week. And so again, we're not telling people to stay away. Come to Provincetown, have a good time, but be safe, be careful, be conscious of your surroundings. Don't come if you don't feel good, get tested. We want to make sure that everyone here can have a good experience and leave healthy and happy.
Alex Morse, good to see you. Congratulations on the relatively new job. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jim. Take care.